Hello! This is a crucial day for the history of Formula One, and we're not talking about anything happening on the track. Felipe Massa's case against Formula One, the FIA, and Bernie Ecclestone, seeking to overturn the 2008 championship result, has finally reached the English High Court this week. It's a lawsuit seeking £64 million, that's over $80 million. But for the Brazilian driver, what's at stake is the recognition of a world title he claims he lost due to a conspiracy. The basis for all this, as surely remember, is the infamous Crashgate at the 2008 Singapore Grand Prix. In that race, Nelson Piquet Jr., then a Renault driver, deliberately crashed his car into the wall. The subsequent investigation confirmed it was a team order to trigger a safety car and benefit his teammate Fernando Alonso, who won the race. Felipe Massa, who was in the Ferrari and comfortably leading, was the biggest victim. During the pit stop under the safety car, Ferrari made a disastrous error with the refueling hose, destroying Massa's race. He finished that season a single, painful point behind Lewis Hamilton. For years, this has been an open wound in the sport. But what changed for this case to hit the courts now, 17 years later? The answer lies in a 2023 interview with Bernie Ecclestone, the former F1 boss. Ecclestone admitted that he and the FIA president at the time, Max Mosley, now deceased, knew about Piquet Jr.'s deliberate crash during the 2008 season, even before the final race in Brazil. However, they decided to do nothing and cover up the information to protect the sport and avoid what Ecclestone called a huge scandal. It was this admission that opened the legal door for Massa to act. Massa's lawsuit was officially filed in March 2024, and now the trial begins. It's essential to understand exactly what Felipe Massa is asking the court for. It's three main things. First, he wants to be recognized as the rightful 2008 champion. Second, he's seeking that £64 million plus interest for the earnings he would have made as a champion. And third, he wants an official statement from the FIA admitting it violated its own regulations by not investigating the case immediately. One crucial detail that must be said: Massa's action is not seeking to strip Lewis Hamilton of his title. The Brazilian's legal team understands the High Court likely doesn't even have the power to do that. But if Massa came out swinging, the defense came out even more aggressively. As the case began this week, leaked FIA documents show the tone of the battle. The Federation labeled Massa's claim as torturous and overly ambitious, and they have a very clear line of attack, aimed directly at the driver's performance. The FIA's defense states that Massa's claim conspicuously overlooks a catalog of his own errors or those of his team, Ferrari, during the Singapore GP and at other GPs, which contributed to his overall second-place finish in the Drivers' Championship that season. In other words, the FIA is saying it wasn't just Crashgate that lost Massa the title, but also other errors by Ferrari and the driver throughout the year. Ecclestone himself, now 95, has dismissed the action, saying there is no way in the world anyone could change or cancel that race. The defendants, by the way, have already filed a strikeout application, arguing the case has no reasonable prospect of success. This 2008 story is far from over, and we'll cover every detail of it here. But the 2025 championship is also on fire, with an unbelievable shakeup in the lead and Max Verstappen racing against time. So you don't miss any of this analysis on both the past and present of F1, do yourself a favor and subscribe right now to Formula News USA. It's your guarantee of getting content that's straight to the point with no filler. If you already like this initial analysis, please hit that like button. It costs you nothing, but for the YouTube algorithm, it's a signal that this video is relevant and deserves to be shown to more people. And please comment below what city you're watching from. It's incredibly important for us to know how far our content is reaching. When you comment, YouTube sees that this video has built a community and recommends it to more Formula One fans. And of course, share this video with a friend who is also addicted to F1. While the London courts revisit the past, the tracks of 2025 are burning with a fierce title battle. Last weekend at the Mexico City Grand Prix, we saw another chapter in what is shaping up to be one of the tightest disputes in recent years. Max Verstappen, the four-time champion, arrived in Mexico knowing he needed a perfect weekend to continue his hunt for the McLaren drivers. The reality, however, was very different. The Dutchman had to fight hard with his Red Bull, which simply didn't adapt to the altitude of Mexico City. From qualifying onward, Verstappen complained about everything: no grip, no traction, and most importantly, no pace. The result was a relatively lowly 5th place on the grid, far from ideal for someone who needs to close a points gap. However, if there's one thing we've learned about Max Verstappen in recent years, it's that he should never be underestimated on Sunday. In the race, he put on a superb driving display, managing to extract the maximum from a car that just wasn't fast. He set an impressive sequence of 30 successive laps in the 121s, a pace that hauled him onto a hard-earned podium, crossing the line in 3rd place. The result could have been even better. Verstappen was rapidly closing in on Charles Leclerc's Ferrari in the fight for 2nd place. But a late virtual safety car, caused by Carlos Sainz, neutralized the battle and saved the Ferrari driver, forcing Max to settle for 3rd. After the race, Verstappen's feeling was mixed. Although he closed the gap to the championship leader by 4 points, he also lost 10 points to the race winner, Lando Norris. When asked about his chances, Max was direct. "I said before the weekend, everything needs to go perfect to win, and this weekend didn't go perfect, so that's your answer." The Mexico round is always an anomaly on the calendar. The altitude of over 2,200 meters, 7,000 plus feet above sea level, makes the air 20% thinner, which drastically affects aerodynamics and, crucially, the cooling of the engines and brakes. Furthermore, the asphalt is notoriously slippery. These factors seem to have exposed a weakness in the Red Bull we haven't seen in some time. Verstappen hopes this performance was just a blip. I hope, of course, we won't experience a weekend like this again, but it still shows that we're not quick in every scenario, and that's what we need to understand, I think, a bit better. With only 4 rounds remaining, the math for Verstappen is clear. He is 36 points behind the new leader, Lando Norris, and 35 behind Oscar Piastri. To become champion, Max needs to outscore both McLaren drivers by an average of 9 points per race. The 2 remaining sprint races could be a golden opportunity, but they also represent a greater risk of losing even more ground. If there's a 3-way tie at the end of the year, the tiebreaker is the number of wins. And that's where Max's situation gets complicated. He has 5 wins so far, compared to 6 for Norris and 7 for Piastri. The odds are still heavily in favor of the McLaren duo, but Verstappen is clinging to every possibility. And speaking of Lando Norris, what we saw in Mexico was a dominant performance that completely changed the championship landscape. Norris not only won the race, but he did so crushingly, reclaiming the World Championship lead he had lost to his teammate. The most impressive part was what he did in qualifying. He secured pole position with a lap 0.262 seconds clear of Charles Leclerc's and a massive 0.588 seconds faster than Oscar Piastri, who started down in 8th. In the race, he won by more than 30 seconds. After this show of force, Norris revealed an interesting mental trick he's been using since May at the Monaco Grand Prix. He asked McLaren to remove the delta time from his dashboard during qualifying. The delta is that real-time information showing the driver if he's faster or slower than his previous best lap. Norris explained that without that reference, he can focus purely on the act of driving, without getting distracted. "I think the thing when I don't have it is I push no matter what. You just always try and maximize every corner to the maximum," he said. The strategy seems to be working. Since dropping the delta, Norris has claimed 4 pole positions. This rise of Norris, however, exposes a drama happening on the other side of the McLaren garage. While one driver flourishes, the other appears to be in an inexplicable freefall. We're talking about Oscar Piastri. Just 2 months ago, at the Dutch Grand Prix in Zandvoort, Lando Norris had an engine failure and retired. At that point, Piastri had 7 wins to Lando's 5 and a solid 34-point lead in the championship. The Australian looked cool, consistent, and the absolute favorite for the title with the most dominant car on the grid. Fast forward 5 races. That 34-point lead hasn't just disappeared, it has turned into a deficit. Piastri is now 1 point behind Norris and has seen Max Verstappen, who was over 100 points back, close the gap to just 35. What happened to Oscar Piastri? The drop-off has been sudden and severe. He went from 14 podiums in the first 16 races to a 4-race streak without even finishing in the top 3. The turning point seems to have been the Italian GP at Monza. In that race, Piastri accepted a controversial team order to correct an error from McLaren in Norris's pit stop, giving up the position and 3 vital points to his teammate. Since then, the Australian seems to have lost his way. Disaster struck in Azerbaijan, where his race in Baku lasted less than half a lap after a crash. In Singapore, he showed nervousness, complaining about Norris's driving after a touch at the start. The lowest point was the incident in the US sprint race, where a bad start by Piastri resulted in a collision that eliminated both McLaren cars, rolling out the red carpet for Verstappen to close the gap even more. Of course, with such a visible drop in performance, the conspiracy theory started swirling on social media, with many fans claiming McLaren was favoring Lando Norris. But let's be logical, that makes no sense. Even with the constructors' title secured, McLaren needs one of its drivers to beat Verstappen. Compromising the driver who was the championship leader, Piastri, would be shooting themselves in the foot and would only help the Red Bull driver. So what is the real explanation for this mysterious slump? The answer seems to be a combination of technical and driving style factors. After Mexico, team boss Andrea Stella and Piastri himself started dropping hints. The low grip conditions and slippery asphalt present in both Austin and Mexico require a very specific driving style. According to Stella, it's a style that comes relatively naturally for Lando and less naturally for Oscar. Lando Norris drives with more sensitivity in his steering inputs, almost dancing with the car and using micro-slides to get through the corners. Piastri, on the other hand, has a more aggressive style. He's more comfortable braking late and attacking the corner entry harder. That style is devastating on high-grip tracks, but in the last 2 races, that approach seems to have sapped his confidence. Piastri himself admitted in Mexico that he needed to change pretty major things in his driving over the weekend, and that the style required by those tracks was not particularly natural for him. The good news for McLaren is that Piastri isn't a driver who blames the car. He accepted the challenge and tried to adapt. What we saw in Mexico, where he recovered to 5th place, was the result of him trying to experiment and add tools to his toolbox, as he put it. The problem is that time is running out for Piastri. He has no more buffer. The next round is at Interlagos, Sao Paulo, a theater of dreams in motorsports, as we well know. It's a track that has a mystical factor, capable of separating the men from the boys. Piastri has 4 races to prove he's the driver who won 7 races earlier this year, and not the inexperienced rookie we saw in Baku or Austin. If the answer doesn't come in Brazil, his championship situation could become irreversibly complicated. And to put into perspective just how difficult Max Verstappen's weekend was in Mexico this year, fighting for a 3rd place, you just have to look back in time. Ironically, it was on this exact day, October 29th, but in 2023, that the Dutchman etched his name even deeper into Formula One history, on this very same track. On that occasion, at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, Verstappen claimed his 16th victory of the season, breaking the record for the most wins in a single year, a record he himself had set with 15 in 2022. That day was the portrait of the 2023 season, absolute dominance. While Charles Leclerc's Ferrari offered a glimmer of hope by securing pole, that advantage evaporated in the opening corners. Verstappen, with the unstoppable RB19, finished the race 13.875 seconds ahead of Lewis Hamilton, who was at Mercedes at the time. Leclerc, despite completing the full 71 laps, was relegated to a distant 3rd place, over 23 seconds behind the Dutchman. It was a driving lesson that set a new standard for dominance in the modern era. The 2023 race, by the way, was also full of drama. For the local hero, Sergio Perez, the race ended in heartbreak at turn 1. Starting from 5th, he found himself in a 3-wide battle with his teammate Verstappen and the pole sitter Leclerc. Perez tried to sweep around the outside, but made contact with Leclerc's Ferrari, launching his car into the air and forcing an immediate retirement in front of his home crowd. Later in the race, a frightening incident with Kevin Magnussen of Haas, who suffered a rear left suspension failure due to overheating brakes, triggered a red flag. But the day belonged to Verstappen. That weekend, track temperatures soared to 48 degrees Celsius, 118 degrees Fahrenheit, but nothing seemed to bother the champion. After the checkered flag, he said, "To win 16 races in a season is something I never thought would be possible. This season has been unbelievable." Little did he know that historic season would end with 19 wins in 2020 races, an unprecedented success rate of 86.35%. What this memory shows us is just how relentless Formula One can be. The dominance that seemed untouchable in 2023 is now facing a real challenge from McLaren in 2025. Red Bull is no longer quick in every scenario, and the championship is wide open. Which brings us to your opinion. What do you make of all this? Will Felipe Massa get the recognition he's looking for in court for 2008? And who takes the 2025 title? Norris's recovery, Piastri's redemption, or Verstappen's relentless chase? Leave your analysis down in the comments. If you enjoyed this deep dive into F1 news, please consider using the hyping button here on YouTube. It's a feature that helps us out immensely. By hyping the video, you signal to the algorithm that this is high-value content, and that helps our channel grow and reach more fans just like you. And before we sign off, we want to be very direct with you. Formula News USA is a growing channel, and since we are not monetized, the only way this channel survives and reaches more people is through your support. Your subscription and your comments are the fuel for this channel. Hitting that subscribe button and dropping a comment tells YouTube that we're doing something right and that our analysis is worth watching. If you want to see more content like this, please take 1 second to subscribe. It is the single most important thing you can do. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. We'll see you in the next one.